Hello everyone, welcome to the Flat Pack Show, episode 54. We're live, dudes. Hey, we're live.
Hey.
Oh, hey.
Everybody knows I had a free movie ticket now. Yay.
So, is it episode 54 of the Flat Pack Show? I'm your host, Flat Meister. We've got Switchpoint, as always.
Well, I mean, I haven't been on in a while. So, I have to remind people that he exists, right?
He's back. I'm glad you're back, dude.
He's switching it up as usual. Never know if he's going to be on or not. Man.
No, it's good to have you back.
Shinobi no switchy.
Shinobi no switchy.
So how that works now?
We got Nerd Waffle.
Hey.
We got Crumple Point.
Hello.
And we have with us a special guest. We've got Angado. I nearly said it wrong then. Angado, would you like to introduce yourself, bud?
Yeah, thanks. My handle, as you said, is Angado, and actually, I own Sinopa Publishing in the United States, bit in a small town called Frankfort, Kentucky, and we are putting out comics and role-playing material.
Cool.
So is that pen and paper? I meant to ask you about that. Is that pen and paper RPG, is it?
Yes, indeed.
Ah, cool. I really need to get into pen and... I've never played pen and paper. Perhaps we should do that sometime. A flat pack pen and paper RPG night or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll play one of Angado's games.
Yeah.
There's a lot of popularity for that kind of thing.
I can definitely send you guys a nice introductory module for the first of the Tarot adventures. It's titled The Draw of Glen Following. It's a good way to introduce things. It is a difficult little rumble, but it's a fun one.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'd definitely be up for that. I'm a huge RPG fan myself, and I'm in the process of developing my own RPG system as well.
Outstanding. Let me make sure I have a good email address to send it to you through DriveThruRPG, and I'll send you the PDF stuff after we're done.
Sounds great.
So I came across your Twitter account, Sinopa Publishing. Actually, it was through Dean Kish, who was on last week, and I'm really happy. I'm really proud that he reached his Kickstarter goal for Tainted.
Oh, yeah. That was such a great accomplishment for him. He's been working really hard for a month and a half on getting that funded, hard at it every day.
He's been working 2 years hard at that. On writing it and everything.
On the title, yeah, on developing it. The Kickstarter was long. 50 days, he said.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, shoot.
But today we're here talking to you about
47 Furious Tales.
Oh, yeah.
So when I gave the rundown to the guys, I said, right, 47 Furious Tales, it's basically 47 Ronin with
Watership Down.
Watership Down, yeah, that was the only...
But some people might know Watership Down better as Redwall as well. So It's sort of like Watership Down, Redwall, and 47 Ronin. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to describe it. We took the 47 Ronin tale, the story of the Eiko incident, and we're telling it with anthropomorphic animal characters.
Did you take any inspiration from the Mouse Guard?
No, I didn't really draw anything from that. And the art's done by Alexia Veldhaus, and she relied very heavily on a lot of traditional Japanese sources, as well as a few things that are more contemporary. But she did a lot of particularly the scenic art, using Edo period Japanese references.
Yeah, I love that the artwork is amazing. I've just brought up the Kickstarter pages, just displaying for everyone to see watching the stream. I'll just put the video on mute, the video that's there. So was it a pledge of your goal is 4,966 pounds. I gotta make sure that I'm reading that right, yeah. Which is how many is that in dollars?
In dollars, that's 6,500.
6,500, and it's about £1,314 at the moment, but really good. You've got 73 backers so far. It's really good.
And we're just into our 7th day, so we're getting some good attention.
I don't have the Kickstarter up, but for any Canadian followers, it's more than $6,000.
Well,
Yes,
Kickstarter
that's what
translates to the price range of where
of your region, yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm bringing up the page right now. It on Canadian it shows up as $8,616. Right. Like it's translation of funds.
Yeah.
But like I wouldn't worry about that part. Just kind of go with the tier that best suits your price range. I would say.
Of course.
I mean,
And that was switch currencies with Switchpoint.
Yes.
I love this picture here that I've just paused on the video of this. Is he a squirrel? I think he is. Yeah, grey squirrel samurai, and he's doing this sort of upward swing with his katana, and just this beautiful like is that water paint? Is that?
Surprisingly, that was actually done digitally.
Really?
But it's reflecting that kind of style. Alexia is incredibly versatile with her art. She's actually formally trained at the Kubert School, Jersey, for comic book artists and illustrators primarily, as well as some animation training there. And she was a particularly successful student, I might add. I was lucky to start commissioning her.
Yeah, the
for
Kubert
a lot of our
School
projects.
is really quite prestigious. That's a big boon for you to get somebody like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of spoiled because I actually commissioned work from several different Kubert graduates. So it's been very kind to me, very kind indeed.
Well, that's what they need,
I've
because a lot of these
found-
people they come out with all these skills and talents, and then they don't get picked up for whatever reason, and it's a complete waste. So it's good that people like you are around to commission them.
Yes.
We try to keep them as busy as we can. I really do. I can write, with great fervor, but the truth of the matter is that crowdfunding supports the artistic end of it, and so we use Kickstarter to drive the funds to produce the art, to make sure that we're paying the artists a fair wage. Unfortunately, there's this tendency that we saw a lot when I was looking at founding Sinopa, where people were $1 their artists, and I have an ethical problem with that, because I don't think that people who are this talented should earn the same wages that just got out of prison and he has to cut yards until they get back on their feet. It's, if you have a skilled trade, you should be paid as such and treated with that kind of dignity and respect. So I make every effort to pay the absolute best that we can for the fine work they're doing. So
That's a great attitude. I'm sure they appreciate it, and I think, like, for the sake of the viewers, I mean, they're probably aware of this, but the art side of things, and you've got obviously two phases of that, because you've got the pencils and the coloring, and that's before you format everything, and it takes time and space and effort. From the writing side of things, and I'm sure you can agree with this, you can, if you wouldn't ideally do it this way, but if you need to, you can bash out a couple hundred words on the train, on the bus, even while you're walking somewhere. But you have to have space to sit down and draw, and you have to have the materials.
Exactly, and it's a profoundly different time frame too. So completing, if you have one person doing everything, see a well done page from the pencils to the inks to the coloring, and then getting the lettering done, and you're talking that could be 12 to 20 hours easily. And so obviously when you start running the calculation on something like a 28-page book like we have here, you're talking about a significant number of hours. And
Yeah.
able to do that for a pittance, I think, is a horrible insult to that artistic talent.
It's a good investment for you as well, because I mean, the publisher, the writer, or whomever is paying the wages, they're going to get the product quicker if they just pay a fair wage, because if the person can't afford to take the time out to do the art, it's going to take ages, and they might have to drop out anyway.
Right. And so that's one of the reasons difference sometimes between people who are their own artist creator and people who are collaborating with other artists, because you are in that position where you need to pay your artists, you need to pay them well, and that's going to usually inflate your costs above someone who is, say, putting a book together in their spare time as their own product, because then they can kind of afford to just rely on getting the print costs covered. Then everything over that is just a boon to them. But it's a remarkable thing to see when you magnificent work people have been doing. People, like what's a good example? Brian Hawkins, who's doing cornrows right now. Absolutely amazing work. And then you've got Adam Watson at Gunslinger Comics and his title Ghost Assassin. Just some really amazing people on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Oh, and Indiegogo also Anthony Moore with Limitless Comics. He's got one launching that's going to take everyone's breath away. I've had the privilege of seeing a few early images from that, and it's just amazing work.
So what made you... Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Go on, Crumble. You're right.
Oh God, this is usually the Canadians.
Yeah, we usually have the Canadian stand up.
Not today, fuckers.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you specifically look for an artist with a certain style, or is it just a matter of who can do the job for you? Is there any particular? Does your writing affect the way you go after an artist, or?
It kind of depends on what I'm doing. Some of these artists I've worked with long enough, I have a pretty good feel for what they were doing. With 47 Furious Tales, when development started, I hadn't worked with these artists as much as I have by now. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to find someone who had a passion for the project.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, Alexia was hard charging at it. She actually has her own samurai title she's been developing for a while also that hopefully we'll get to see complete soon. I would love to have it in my hands as well. Yeah. And her love of the Edo period of Japanese culture, samurai code, and the whole philosophy of Bushido, and is really applying it into the pages she's producing. And she has a lot of artistic freedom with this book to express that. Yeah. Because you don't want to stifle things too much. I mean, most of the key points in the description of the panels are just for consistency within the narrative.
So my question was, what made you was that your decision to go with anthropomorphic animals rather than like humans? What made you decide to go with that aesthetic?
I wanted something that had a story in a new way, and I wanted to add a lot of different color patterns into the book to make it a little more pleasant on the eye. I mean, if you have a historic piece of a lot of people who are very similarly dressed, then what you run into is where you have nameless bad guys in superhero comics. It's kind of hard to distinguish who's who. And that actually drove a little bit further in the development, because originally we were going to do all of the Ronin as squirrels, but I was talking with Alexia, and she pointed out that it would be very, very difficult to distinguish them, even using the different types of squirrels we're using. And so what we did instead was we broke up the Ronin as well into different animals as well. So you'll see with they're on display in the Kickstarter, we have Yoshio and Shikara type of squirrel, Asano Naganori as another type of squirrel. But then when we get to Yasube and Yaoi, we have them as foxes.
Yeah, I was just looking at the fox.
We're going to those differences in there to make certain characters very uniquely distinguishable. It's kind of similar in the way that it's easy to distinguish, say, Batman, Superman. Costumes are very, very, very different. You swap their costumes, it's almost impossible to distinguish them apart. But by keeping something that's very distinct and unique to them, it helps to the reader to tell who's really in the narrative.
Yeah, you're quite right. I remember reading Batman Hush, and there's a scene where Bruce and Clark are speaking with their masks. Well, Bruce has his mask off, and it's headshots only, and I didn't know who was who. I had to go back and reread the page a couple times.
Yeah, so, depending on who the artist was, it can be very difficult.
Well, it was Jim Lee, so they both looked identical. No offense, Jim, but seriously. But, I like that, and I guess the... once you've made the decision to go as what would you say, like have as much artistic license and that kind of suspension of disbelief, I guess that gives you a lot more latitude to express the characters by their appearance than if they had been going for like photorealism, because they're already, you know, a cat or whatever, so you can just dial all the expressions up to 11 and things like that.
Right, and you'll see that just a little bit in some of the character reference images that we've used, that Alexia created to make sure that she was consistent throughout the books. Chikara, for example, is basically looking like a younger, smaller version of his father Yoshio. That's an important and very deliberate choice in the art to draw that association between the two of them. Yeah. So always has a very controlled, very ferocity to him, if you know what I mean. He's very deliberate. And then even in the action sequences that are on display in the Kickstarter page, when you see Chikara and Yahe take off running different ways in the woods to address this one particular issue, you'll notice that Chikara, even as the younger son of Yoshio, is also very controlled despite his youth, harkening back to his father.
It is really charming as well. Like I as somebody who draws a lot myself, I'm now actually itching to go and draw an anthropomorphized rabbit samurai or something like that. It's like you see it and you want to do it.
I mean, does a waffle count? I mean, it's not an
You can
animal.
be a portcullis.
I mean, a waffle and an 8-ball and a dragon robot could all be semi-anamorphic.
I love all of the color palettes. Like there's this one where they ambush two monkey guards.
They're bandits from the Grey Wolf clan.
The bandits.
And yeah, we did a little different there. We didn't want to do wolves, despite the name of the bandits. We wanted to make them entirely distinct, so we made them monkeys, to give them a little more facial expression as well. And so we should be able to express more shock, more disbelief.
You could have made them coyotes, and they could be like dancers, and they could be Coyote Ugly. Sorry, I had to make that joke.
But yeah, all of like the background, like the different color palettes, like it goes sort of green in the woods, and then as they sort of come into the clearing, it goes sort of like from beige to like a mustard yellow brown, and then sort of as he is about to draw his sword, and then it's got like this beautiful red with like this almost like blood splatter across the back, like sort of behind him.
Exactly, and part of this is a reflection of the mindset. When you look through and you read a lot of the writings that refer to the discipline of the samurai and the practice of Bushido, one particular line comes immediately to mind to me, and that is that the decision to kill should be made within the span of 3 breaths. This decision has been made. It's time to kill these people. And so it's gone from the nature and that natural scene to just that Zanjin moment where you have basically that one purpose, that one illuminated cause, and in this instance, that cause is death. He's bringing it to them in very short order. I love to tease out the next page in that sequence, but it's something I'm kind of holding back. I really
we want people to back this, so we will keep the curtain drawn.
I'll tell you what's fun is that Alexia is great to work with. But the one thing, and the only thing that she's complained about at all ever to me, and all the work she's ever done for me, is this same page, the very top. There are 7 horses. 7 horses is for consistency with the narrative, because there was really a total of monkey bandits rolling around. And so that harkens back to account for each of those. But it's a terrible thing to do to your artist. If you're creating a comic, don't make them do that, because it's so much more work on them.
Sorry, make them do what? You got out there.
Don't make them draw 7 horses in a single panel. It's just too much work.
And that's the thing. Like you said, there was 7, and I was like, I brought it up on the stream, and I was counting. I'm like, I only see 6. Is he? And there was like a grey one standing right next to the brown one behind this sort of darker brown one. She kind of saved herself sort of extra work there.
She did manage to save a little bit there, yeah, but it's a fierce thing to have to do.
Yeah, I don't think this. You seem mindful of it, so I don't think this applies to you. But quite often, I'm looking at people pitching things, or in fact reading a story, and I'm like, writers should be sometimes forced to apprentice as like even just doing storyboards or something, because like one of the things I noticed during doing the Peptis challenge is because I made the decision early on to not take shortcuts. So if I did the script, even though I was going to be the one drawing it, it was a script as if it was written for somebody else. And one of the things I did was with the henchmen and the buildings, so that I wouldn't get bored, I did them all completely different to each other. So they didn't have like a uniform and they weren't all the same shape. And all I did was I just drew them slightly like lower resolution than the main characters, if you want to put it that way. And it's like, you read so many comics and see so many people, and like you're saying, you read the instruction, you're like, how is the artist meant to draw this? It's not even an important panel. And like, I see that happen a lot. I'm not saying you've done that because you actually have been considerate and you've noticed that, but like, and you've only done it on the one panel as well, but it's something I noticed a lot.
And this is a busy page too. Page 13 is very, very busy. As far as the number of panels that you see in there, there's a lot of implied action, and we try to keep it so that the images flow together very well. And Alexi is remarkably talented at this, so I have a lot of faith in just letting her run with it. Great deal of is a good word to the story, by really writing to the script so that everything relates very nicely together. I actually really can't wait to get this printed so I can actually hold it in hand,
Because yeah, I could like, it already looks absolutely amazing on screen, but to have it on nice glossy paper, and yeah, like you said, to hold it in your hand and see the fruits of your labor fully realized, and it's a full finished product.
Exactly. It's one of the things that I've aspired to for years now, and we're getting closer every day. 26% funded right now, hoping to be 40 or 50% funded by next week. As we can keep getting the word out and show people what we have to offer, and folks will be very pleased with what we're going to put in their hands.
I mean, I was looking down here, further down on the Kickstarter, and it said in the risks and challenges, and it says you've launched and fulfilled 5 Kickstarter campaigns to date, which is really impressive. 3 of which have been fulfilled a couple of weeks later than projected or due to unforeseen issues. But no, I'm really happy for you, dude, that you've already got quite a following. That these people that had backed these previous 5 Kickstarter campaigns.
Right, primarily role-playing game fans, because the previous attempt to fund 47 Furious Tales didn't succeed. Development on it, but we had some really good responses from everyone. The actual last campaign, I had to make a last-minute change on the font in the book, because I had gone with a very stylistic font because it was a book on necromancy, and so it had blood red and it looked very stylish. But the problem is that if you have poor eyesight. It was very, very difficult to read. And so in the ninth hour, I had to basically reformat the whole book to more standardized text, just so it would be friendly for all the readers. And then with the holidays, we just finally got the last of the copies for the backer's signature this week. So those have been going out for the last few days.
Yeah.
Tomorrow or Friday, so they should all be out. I love signing books. It's the best. And with RPG books, you can put like there. So I usually write a little note on the inside of the cover to the backer, thanking them directly for their contribution. And it's something I really dig.
Yeah, and I have to say, people watching this, if you go and back these things, they do make it does make a difference when you guys get involved, because I remember we helped Narwhal Books get not planner, sorry, and I forgot the damn name of it. Super unprofessional. Narwhal Books. It was the. If you look on my channel, it was. I can't believe I've forgotten the name of it, but it was It's like Battle Royale, but sci-fi, and it's a fantastic read. And he's working on he's done a Mad Max homage book, and he's working on a new book called Foreign Agent, and we managed to nudge that over the Kickstarter line just by creating some hype around the video. So people watching this, if you share it around and donate to the Kickstarter yourself, that makes a difference to people.
Yeah. I mean, we've got John Lemus in the chat. He's here from Indie Comics Showcase. He said that he covered 47 Furious Tales on Indie Comics Showcase.
He was very kind to us. He really was. He was very, very kind to us. It just went out today, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's a really good, really great guy. Big supporter of the show. He actually that was how I found out about Dean Kish. Actually, was from John Lemus, or he sort of pointed Dean in our direction.
Yeah, and that's another example of every little bit makes a difference, because that happened with Dean Kish. Like, it was just last week we were talking to him, and now his Kickstarter is funded. So
yeah.
He had a 20% surge in the last week, because he was lingering around 80% there for a while.
Yeah.
First became aware of Dean. He had joined a Facebook group that I started for supporting writers, musicians, and such. And basically, we share so that people can put out information about when their concerts are, what their new projects are, what they're writing, and exchange information about stuff like that to try and spread the word. We put in Kickstarter links so that everyone can share links to everyone else. It's a fun, very small little group, but that's how I first became aware of Dean. He was showing some absolutely spectacular work from his book Tainted.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's important to fund these indie comics, independent comics and stuff.
Support small.
Yeah, I mean, these are the people that are going. It's not always guaranteed, but the people that make indie comics, you'll get more from. They'll take your feedback more than some of the bigger publishers of comics. So that's how we need to change things in comics, and keep comics going. Is we need to support indie comics, because that's the other thing too about indie comics is you can go and you can say, you know what, Tainted's my kind of book, or you can say 47 Furious Tales is my kind of book, and it looks awesome. From what I've seen, I really enjoy I'm a huge. I don't know if it's because I'm a huge squirrel fan. I just love squirrels. But it's the awesome, the artwork of just a squirrel doing samurai. It's just sword techniques and stuff is just awesome. But the point is that with independent comics, you can get that variety that you can't get with the big publishers, because the big publishers the big two, I don't want to mention names or anything, but we all know who they are. you know,
Fucking Laurel and Hardy.
So they have like their list of agenda comics that they need or want to put out and push. Like, oh, we got to do, we got this list. We want to do 3 Spider-Man. We want to do 2 Captain Marvel. We want to do Punisher, and we're gonna do all this, and that's kind of set or whatever. But with independent comics, you see just so much more flavor and
a lot more variety. It's
like it's like a garden compared to a grocery store, where it's like there you can put whatever
much fresher, hands down.
Exactly, much fresher, and it's more variety in a garden. Like a grocery store may only decide to carry apples or carrots and potatoes and green beans. Whereas a garden might you can put whatever you want in there. People can especially if it's a community garden, people can put whatever vegetables they want in there, and people can go in and be like, what, there's a variety here, and I think that we need to support that variety because as time goes on, we are learning that there's so many different people out there, and finding things that are interesting to all these people is really what indie comics is about. And I think that it's projects like this where the artwork looks really good. I haven't seen much of the story on it, but it sounds like it's awesome.
There's also
we're gonna see more of the story out here in a little while.
Yes, good. Okay. But don't give away too much. But there's no point in throwing away £4 extra a month, because I know people have the money they set aside from their pool lists, and there's no point in buying a comic just to fulfill a space on your pool list that you're going to hate, when you can spend the exact same amount of money, but you can source out your stuff. I mean, Switchpoint has told me about that, and maybe you can speak to this a bit, Switch, about you've swapped out a lot of, if not most of, your big 2 stuff, and you've shown me loads of cool indie projects you've been checking out.
Well, I mean, I don't see the point in wasting money on things I don't like. I mean, this is silly. It's silly. I mean, I'm running in an argument about some person being right now, saying, "Oh, well, be a conscious buyer." It's what does being a conscious buyer even mean? Am I going to buy something I dislike and give money to the people that I dislike if they're not even going to listen to me?
Yeah, but they got conscious buyer wrong. Conscious buyer means watch what you're spending on what you're spending it on. So I think they're wrong in the fact that they're saying, oh, I don't know, that sounds really weird that what they were saying to you.
Oh, no, I agree with you. Their argument was very simple of, well, I dislike billionaires, but I'm a conscious buyer and I'm going to buy my iPhone still. I'm like,
hey, and that's fine for them, but that's
okay, then you realize you hate iPhone, you hate Apple, but you bought Apple's product, you gave them money.
Yes, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. Is I see so many people complaining about the big 2, and then they're like, I just spent $200. Okay, but let's look. 47 Ronin or 47
Furious Tales
is $5 Canadian, $4 US. I'm not sure how much in pounds, but you're saying someone is saying, oh, I can't take $4 or $5 from my $200 amount and throw it somewhere else, or take $100 and get so much more for it. And what, if they still like a couple of Marvel and DC titles, then go for
proper conscious buying would be, okay, well, I'm not reading, here's an example, I'm not reading Batman right now, but I'm wasting the $5 a month to pick it up.
Yeah.
Well, what if I stop buying that Batman and I put it towards 47 Ronin? Maybe I'll read that instead, because maybe it is a better book. Why am I wasting that $5 on Batman? Consciously, that's a bad spending decision.
It's also complete madness to buy something you're going to dislike just to hate by it, when the amount of work that's gone into this book and the amount of actual thought, the amount of variety you're going to get, and you're going to get a better experience. Plus, the £4 to these people making 47 Furious Tales, that £4 is a much more meaningful to them than the equivalent amount to one of these massive mega corporations. And the other thing is it inspires and encourages other people who want to do the same thing as them. So it really it's not just a one-off thing. Like that money sends a message as well.
Yeah.
And it really is, if we use Switch's analogy here, it's the equivalent of still buying that iPhone when there's an ePhone for exactly the same amount of money that operates 10 times better and wasn't unethically built, you know?
Exactly. Like, yeah, like the I don't know. It is very intriguing the amount of like justifications people will make for doing the things that they do. To me.
Well, it's also hurt the individual, complaining too, because it's like, do you really want to spend all your day complaining about it because you picked up something you knew you didn't like and you're reading it and you hate it and you're just complaining, throwing negativity out there when you could just say, hey, I'm just not going to get it. I'm going to spend my money on something I do enjoy, and I'm going to start talking about positive things, you know?
Frankly, as well, I mean, if you look at the level of writing and art that's gone into this, it's of a very high standard. There's a lot of number ones coming out in the big publishers that are not written by people who've got 5 comics already under their belt, and are not written by people, not drawn by people from the Kubert school, and so the quality you're getting for the same amount of money is much higher in this case. So yeah, I endorse the decision to back these things.
I say like you're better off at least giving these things a try. I mean, sure, you may get something good.
I think that's one of the important reasons for doing. I mean, it's a good argument for doing single issues on Kickstarter and Indiegogo also. It gives people the opportunity to get a new book, not investing the same amount of money they would for a full trade paperback or a whole storyline of 300 pages or whatever. And not only does it make it possible for those books to get made and put out, but if they decide they like it, then certainly they can come back and back the second and the third and what have you. And if they don't like it, they can set it on their shelf and go pursue other interests. It's really an amazing time for all sorts, musicians, painters, any type of artist, whether they're a visual artist or a writer. I think that the stuff to crowdfunding platforms and to get support from people who find that your ideas are interesting. And one, it provides validation for your work, that they would support it. It facilitates the ability to actually create things when you're looking at stuff like print costs or art development. If you're doing software, I mean, that's a huge, huge expense on skilled labor. And you can put out things that are uniquely your expression people may have never seen before. And I think there's a lot of value to that for the individual and for the community at large.
Yeah, and every dollar that you get is a sign of encouragement to continue to do that as well, which is what I think is great about these projects. Because if it's a bit quirky. It's fluffy animals in kimonos slashing each other around with katanas in the forest. It's a bit far-fetched, right? But so that's a risk straight away. But if you get $1 from somebody, that's them saying, yeah, no, I like this idea. So that then encourages you to go bigger and better the next time.
The nice part is that I like the fact that the folks who have been supporting my tabletop role-playing game books, a lot of them came over who a lot of interest in comics, but they supported the campaign anyway because they wanted to see me working in a different media. And Alexia is actually a very popular artist from the work that she did in Comet Over Echo Rock, second book in the Tarot Adventure series, and also for some work she did on my monthly PDF release through Kickstarter's Drip platform. And so she's very well regarded by that community. And I think that's really come out in our favor, particularly on launch day when we saw a lot of familiar names on that first day.
Do you think you'll consider perhaps adapting some of your material from the comic into RPG form, or?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk between Alexia and I and a lot of the backers from some of the other RPG projects of be willing to go ahead and release a 47 Furious Tales role-playing game, and the answer is yes. I just want to do it after we finish the 12 issues of the comic.
That's
because
brilliant.
we want to be able to focus project in stages that are sensible and allow for Alexia to focus her creative energies in the art.
So, like,
we don't want to crap the art out. We want to make sure that everything's as pristine as we can make it.
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
I just noticed this really cool detail. It took me a second to really notice it. It's the digital poster number 1, or cover of issue 1. It's got these 2 Japanese or letters or characters on his clothing, and it is actually. I then noticed the silhouette. It's actually 2 squirrels fighting with swords. Have you guys got it up on your screens as well? I only just noticed. Sorry, go on. What were you gonna say?
That is our cover image, and that's exactly what it is, and it's symbolizing the conflict, the background as Kira is starting to hatch his plans against Asano.
Yeah. So
this is symbolic of that conflict. Like I said, there's a lot to the art that's going in this book.
Yeah, that was a blink and you miss it kind of detail. At first, I just thought it was Japanese lettering just on the back of his clothing, and then I took a sort of second glance. I'm like, hang on a second, that looks like 2 people fighting with swords.
And that it is, yes. And we had a particular discussion. There's a panel that I guess I can tease this out a little bit. About the actual imagery for strike with a yari, which is a type of spear native to Japan, using the chisel tip for defeating armor is the actual physics of it. But because of the chisel tip of the spear, it leaves a very particular wound pattern. Wound. And so one of the things that we discussed on that particular piece, that particular panel, was the blood spray pattern. To be, I know it's a very little detail, but it was to nail down pretty well. And so a little bit of research, and I think we've got it. I think we've got it to where it's going to look really nice. It's going to be grim, don't get me wrong, but I think artistically it's going to be very nice.
Yeah. Because I was going to mention something. You guys were talking earlier about the cost of spending money on a comic from like the big 2 or such, but these pledge tiers that you have, you get really good bang for your buck. You get a digital copy, you get a signed copy, or depending on obviously of the tier, you get a poster, you get one of those thank you cards, which was really cool. I saw one of them. I think it was further down on the Kickstarter. Yeah, with sort of this.
And actually, you get both digital posters.
Yeah.
And the reason for the digital was to save on shipping. Really, in shipping to Europe, especially in Asia, trying to ship posters is very, very, very expensive. Certainly, distribute the digital medium in the poster file so that people can have them printed locally at much lower cost than we could ever do it on the Kickstarter.
Oh, that's good.
There's a good friend of mine in Thailand who he's constantly coming up with this hurdle of having to choose whether to import things or not, and digital comics are a godsend to people like him.
Yeah, digital is absolutely imperative. I mean, you really have to do it to be able to reach everyone very effectively. And not just for comics, for role-playing games too.
For a lot of things, because I think that's a big, like, with the internet, is sometimes of a cesspool as it is, but for the most part, like, it does open up the world. Like, I'm in Canada, and and the other guys are from other countries too, and you know, we wouldn't have met without the internet. But the thing is with this, and like you said, you're from the US, you know, back in the old days, it'd be very hard to make this connection. But so that's good, and that's awesome, because you can pop up a Kickstarter, and any, you know, most places around the world, most countries, not all of them, but most, will be able to see this and be able to back it. The problem is the boundary though is shipping, because like shipping to anywhere that's not your own country, and even sometimes within your own country, is sometimes like more than what it's worth. You know, it might cost you $2 to print it or whatever, but the shipping's like $50 or something like that. You know,
right? Because shipping a comic to Europe from the United States is about $23.
Yeah,
and that's not counting the cost for your shipping materials.
And it all really depends too on the country's postal service, because like Canada's postal service just kind of sucks and is expensive as hell. So like, even though Canada's right next to US, and it's just literally someone driving a fucking truck across the border, it's like, oh, gonna charge you like $1 billion to deliver this, you know, just because different postal services and stuff like that. You know?
I can't complain about Canada's postal service, because I'll tell you, they've done a great job of delivering RPG stuff for me.
Really?
Toronto, yeah. Even a guy in Quebec, which you know, people like to make fun of Quebec, but I've got a really nice.
I hope you turned him down. I'm just kidding.
He's pretty cool, actually. I like talking to him.
No, I'm just joking. We like to razz Quebec here in Canada as well, as the rest of the world likes to.
Especially the French.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, not to get too off topic, but funny thing for people out there is that there's actually a political party, a federal political party, so like one that runs for like our president, which is prime minister, that's called the Bloc de Quebecois, and it's basically a party with the sole intention of separating Quebec from the rest of Canada. And it's just hilarious. Just a little bit of tidbit information, but not to get off topic, it's just with the with the boundaries and stuff like that, it's just is really just is just sometimes within the shipping, and a little bit with the fact that our Canadian dollar sucks, but it, like, the boundaries of can be surpassed by having digital content included in your pledges.
Yeah, and with my comic, all the people, or most of the people that bought it, are from America and Canada, so I wouldn't have been able to distribute that any other way. And it's been a
you would
godsend
be, but
to me.
just not without like saying, "Hey, my comic is like, I don't know."
Well, it was a small book, and it wasn't, frankly, like, you know, I loved it, and the people that read it enjoyed it, but it wasn't worth the price in shipping.
Yeah,
for a £2 book, you know.
But see, that's a benefit of this Kickstarter, is I believe that you have the printed copy signed. That's correct.
All printed copies are going out signed. Yes.
That's
and to tell you the truth, it's hard to explain why you wouldn't. If you're handling the shipping yourself, which is what we're doing, we're actually here instead of using a fulfillment center. There's really not a reason not to sign the book for your backers. You know, it's value, and I think it's a personal touch that's important to have invested in your dream, and they've helped make it a reality. I think it's the very least that you can do is just distinctly, uniquely theirs.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's yes. Really, even if you don't necessarily know the author, it is a very personal thing.
Yeah. And you know what? Even if it's like, even if it doesn't physical comic, it is something that is of value, as people enjoy that sort of thing. So if you think about it that way, in your mind, it helps with sort of the, when you're like, oh well, I have to pay X amount of money for shipping, but I get this like signed comic that I can physically hold in my hand. It makes it, if it wasn't worth it before to somebody, then it's definitely worth it at that point,
Right, and that's the hope, because we want to give people good value.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that sometimes rep for. You have people who just can't fulfill their promises because they made a miscalculation. But sometimes you get things that are worried about the real long-term value in it. And so I just try to do the best I can to make sure that we produce the highest quality materials we have available for books. Because so far we've been relying on print-on-demand copies. A huge dent in our margins, obviously. Does allow for us to get the books quickly and order precisely what we need to fulfill, developed and out and available.
Yes.
And so for comics, we're probably going to, because I'm assuming we're going to fund, our plan is to run 2,000 copies to fulfill. And then the remainder I'll be selling at conventions, because it's really not enough to take to Diamond for distribution. We'll hold off on that until we have all 12 issues done.
So do you think are you gonna do like an entire trade after you're done here? Probably just put them all together, or do you think you're just gonna keep them single?
Right. After all 12 are done, probably or 6 months later or something like that, we'll release a trade with it. But with that, one of the things that we're going to be doing is taking and putting that into a box that a buddy of mine's going to carve. And we're going to go over to Japan and deliver it to the shrine where the 47 are interred alongside of Sano.
Okay. That sounds actually pretty cool, because so at that point you'd probably then try to distribute it a bit more, like maybe if not through Diamond, at least some distributor of some sort, to try to get it out there a bit more, I'd imagine.
Right. Honestly, if I could develop the fan base large enough, I'd actually like to distribute just digitally through Drip or Patreon, really, because I like those platforms in that you can actually get a lot of value out of them. The person who's running it has enough support from their patrons. Particular comic artist who, I wish I could remember his name right offhand, but he basically releases his comic a page at a time on his Patreon, and I think it's $1 a month or something like that. And so you basically get these constant pages work. You just have to be patient, because I think he's only got like 100 or so supporters right now. But I mean, imagine what he could do if he had 1,000 people who were supporting him.
Yeah.
Or 5,000, something where he wasn't working a day job and doing it. I mean, the thought of it is just absolutely amazing.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. People don't understand. Some people don't understand either. It's funny because I saw someone, again, like I said, the internet can be kind of a cesspool sometime, as we all know. But I just saw someone slamming someone one time because they were like, "Oh, I can't believe you kept some of the money from your Patreon or something like that, or your crowdfunding or something like that." I can't remember exactly which one they said. And the guy was like, I put a lot of hours into this, too, and stuff. And then the artist was paid, and I was paid, and everybody got their issue and stuff like that. It's like weird. It's a weird dynamic, but like people need to understand that artists and writers put time and effort and energy into these projects. They're not just, oh, hey, I decided to just throw up a page and I hope people give me money. It's no, hey, these people put a lot of time and effort, and most people, not everybody, but most people have these these projects finished before they put them up in Kickstarter and Patreon and stuff like that, and all they're asking for is like help to get the book printed, kind of thing, you know.
Right.
So I think it's important for people to understand that, and for, you know, you're supporting, when you're backing these things, you're supporting people who have put very hard work into it, and I think that that's also another reason why to back independent comics. And this one looks like it's had a lot of work put into it, and thought, and you know, creativeness.
I was going to ask as well. Where did you start with this story? You know, what inspired you, and what set off all the ideas rolling initially to make you write this book?
The tale of the ACO incident has been a favorite of mine for years. When I was a much younger man and a teenager, back in the 80s and through the 90s, I was a competitive martial artist, and I read a lot. You know, Muramasa, the works of Sashi, Sun Tzu, the classics of what we typically consider the Bushido philosophers, and you get acquainted to some of these tales. And the ACO incident is one in the latter history of what we consider the samurai era. I mean, it occurred in the early 1700s, before the United States was actually, you know, more than colonies. And that's not very far in our past, but 300 years is a long time for a story to resonate so strongly. I mean, the shrine where these people are interred, thousands of visitors every year, and it continues to do so in today, because this story does strike such a chord in the center of the being of the human consciousness. I mean, it talks about loyalty, the importance of being faithful to what your station is, and who you believe in, and who you trust. It's about commitment. It's about sacrifice, and doing what you believe is right, even if it appears to be wrong in all other instances. If we compared it to a modern analogy, we might compare them to vigilantes. But it's a cultural, when you look back on it, it seems almost foreign to a lot of modern thinking. It really comes down to, are you willing to die for what you believe in? And in this case, the answer was a resounding yes. And the 47 went to their deaths by seppuku for what they believed after avenging Asano. And only Nobuyuki, the 47, was actually spared his death at that time by the shogunate. And when he finally died of old age, he was interred along with his fellows. And he had, I guess, the dubious honor of survivor for a good long while. I believe he was in his 70s when he finally passed.
It was remarkable as well, in that people were sticking so rigidly to the rules in the caste system, even when they were abused. And this was kind of the big incident where the abuse had become so flagrant. Because obviously all these honor rules were put in place for reasons, you know, to keep order and keep some level of fairness. But what happened, obviously, was those rules became just another tool for certain families to have it over other families. And so I think it was a big wake-up call. I think every country's had a wake-up call, but maybe not in quite as spectacular fashion. Where either mythologically or historically, something like this has happened, and I think it's a bit of a universal culturally. It's really. So I take it you just heard the story and it just struck you, and you had to write something about it.
Yeah, it's been one of my favorite tales for years, and adapting it in this way was something I thought would be not only fun to do, but also something I could do at a level of quality I could be proud of. It still required some more research because you want to get your facts straight. So we took some artistic liberties. I mean, we turned all the actors into anthropomorphic animals, but we also kind of filled in some of the blanks, because it is historical tale from 300 years ago. Not everything that happened is documented, and you get some conflicting information with some of the literary accounts. And so picked at it and tried to construct what seemed a very sensible narrative into the facts as we know them. I think it makes for a really great story.
I think I saw you tweet earlier on today. I think you said you would love to see, which would be really cool as well, to see this as a what was that? A live action movie or sort of CGI?
Animated movie.
Animated
movie. Yeah, I would love to see it animated. Because actually, when I write Asano's dialogue, I in my head I always hear it as if George Takei were voice acting it. Ever since I first put pencil to paper, every time I write anything that Asano is saying, it sounds like George Takei in my mind.
Oh my!
And it's one of those things where it's just I have a real aspiration to get it animated, to the point that I actually went out and looked on Netflix some of their resources for submitting work for development to see what would be required for it. So,
well, I mean, hopefully you can make it.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say, Switch?
I said hopefully you can make it. I mean, I know Netflix has like a lot of. I know like Netflix has a like doesn't have very much on the way of censors when you want to do a show. So I mean, if you do it, they you can definitely maybe get somewhere with that for sure.
47 Furious Tales.
I think it would make a great
Netflix original.
Oh, hang on a sec, Corey. Go on, Angado. What were you saying?
I was saying I think it would make a great animated movie. It's a really grand aspiration, but not one that I'm willing to give up anytime soon. We'll keep working towards it.
Or what about a video game with the same, if they kept the same art style as well?
Haven't really considered it.
Because that would be really, I don't know.
I haven't really considered a video game for it. Right now it's been focused on the comic, do some original conceptual models of the RPG layout, think about what it would look like as an animated form.
Yeah, go on, Corey. Go on, Nerd Buffle. Go on.
I was gonna say, video game would come after probably like the comic finishes, and probably after the RPG, the pen and paper book, because then if with the pen and paper book, they would have more of the mechanics kind of down with the pen and paper book.
Definitely.
John Lemus is in the chat. He's saying he says I knew I wanted to cover it as soon as I saw it. He's really loves.
He seems really excited.
Yeah, John's a good guy, and he does good work.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to John. He treated us very well.
I think it's also really good that you are elevating. You are bringing other projects of other creators to people's attention as well. There was that really cool. The name has gone. Five Blades. That's it. I knew it was another.
Yeah, by Marcel Dupree. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what was it I said to you. The art style kind of reminded me. It was like a neon, bright coloured Afro samurai type art style.
Marcel and his team have done some really neat work on the material that's on the Kickstarter, particularly, and I really have to say I really like what I'm seeing there. The other one too that I've really enjoyed, and probably titles I would look at other than 47 Furious Tales at the moment, would be Cornrows by Brian Hawkins.
Yeah,
and his people did an amazing job on Cornrows. It has not gotten the attention it really deserves, and I'm really hoping he can get the rest of the way. He's running out of time.
I think he's only got 2 days left. I think. Did he say?
Maybe a day and a half. I think he's down to like 30 hours. He's definitely within the last 48.
Because I saw the front cover looked really cool.
Yeah, they did an amazing job on it. I actually just had him on a channel I contribute to called Channel Geek, where I did an interview of him about the realism of it and how it was reflecting street level violence in the United States. Is a really important topic to come out that no one else is. Well, I should say no one else is. Not a lot of people are talking about in their comics.
Yeah, I'll bring it up on bring it up on the page. Cornrows.
There's one thing that's made me quite off-put by comics recently is, well, not even recently actually, because even in the classic stuff, it's why Frank Miller always appealed to me so much, was because I wanted to see certain heroes, not all of them, but fighting actual criminals that I could envision being real. And there seems to be, what with all the, I don't know what to call it other than the Funkoization of comics. There's no emphasis on that anymore. You know, it's all intergalactic Kree battleships, even if it's Daredevil. You know, it's like there's no actual grounded feel to it, except in the indie scene.
Well, I mean, like there's a lot of generalization of them these days, rather than trying something like wild and different. You know, like. Rather than creating like the actual villain, like the actual thoughtful, fully fledged out character that is a villain, that actually, like, you know, the one that actually thinks that they're doing the well, I mean, I wouldn't say like even the ones that I feel like think that they're doing the right things just feel kind of hollow these days, you know.
You have to have a good motivation for your villains.
Yeah.
Kira. Can't give away too much here, but one of Kira's issues is that's motivating him is an upcoming visit from certain shogunate officials to allegations of corruption. That's something that he needs to be very, very careful of, and it's one of the things that spurs on the events that unfold in the Eiko incident.
That could lead to some very interesting aspects for sure if done properly. I mean, like I would like to definitely, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing how it goes.
I think you're gonna like it. Yes. Not to toot my own horn too much, but I think it's a good story. I think it's a really good story.
Toot away, that's why you're here.
Yeah, Alexia liked it enough that she's like, yes, I'm gonna write this book. It's funny. Actually, in some of the interviews she's done, she describes it as she's saying, "Everyone else get back. This is mine." Like, oh, mine. That's it. Everyone else back off. And so she's been incredibly passionate about it and stuck with it all throughout this time. One of the things that unfolded, particularly through 2018 and up till now, is that any extra revenue that was generated from other Kickstarter launches that was left in excess was actually being directed towards other projects, and some of that always went into 47 Furious Tales. Done because I don't ask anyone to work for free because I think that's unfair, unethical, and quite frankly foolish. You have to pay people, and you have to pay them fairly. And it's like we said earlier, there's a lack of appreciation about that sometimes. I've had people who have, hey, you don't have to pay people $250 a page. You can get the same work done in the Philippines for $10. Is you have to say, I have to say anyway, no, I really can't, because I'm not going to pay someone in the Philippines for their time that I'm paying someone in the United States, you know?
Yeah.
And I have incredibly talented people who I work with. Some names that aren't yet famous, but I'm certain they will be. For example, comes to mind immediately, Alexia Veldhausen, Nick Capone, who does work for all kinds of folks, including doing some teaching at the Kubert School himself. Christian Martinez, Anthony Ojeda, who does a lot of storyboard work in LA right now. Just the list goes on and on and on. It's a pretty deep bench. I'm very, very fortunate to be able to call on folks, and they're always happy to take my commissions because they know my checks are going to clear, and they know that I'm going to treat them fairly.
Yeah, I do respect that, and I respect your business smarts as well, because a lot of people don't have any idea of the responsibility they're taking on when they hire an artist, when they commission someone, or when they even start a Kickstarter. There's so many left unfulfilled, or what you said about miscalculations earlier. And that's part of the reason I didn't put mine on Kickstarter, is I knew I lacked the experience. So I made the thing first and then accepted money for it afterwards. But that's because I knew that something would pop up that I wouldn't have control over, and I needed to be more confident. And I wish more people were like yourself and actually had the foresight and the responsible attitude you've got towards people's money as well. And like you say, you're making money off this, which means you're solid, and that then just helps you in the future even more. And the fan base, hopefully, that you're going to generate from these books will only get bigger and stronger as well.
Yeah, I mean, the money that comes out goes into the project first and foremost. And I have made some miscalculations. I lost a little bit of money on my first 2 projects, primarily because of shipping cost miscalculations. I underestimated the weight on the overall shipping, basically, and threw my calculations out of whack.
Oh man, that's terrible.
One of my smallest funded projects, though, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been. I mean, we're not talking about losing hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Like that. I think I lost a total of maybe $95. And given
a loss is still a loss. But...
Yeah, but the important thing is everyone got their books. They got the best quality books I can make.
And it's a learning experience too.
Exactly, it is a learning experience. And I was actually just talking with my postmaster today. They're looking at how we can streamline, scale it, because eventually I hope to be sending out thousands of copies direct to people one day, and so we're planning ahead for that. Particularly, I have a project I'm hoping to put together this summer for comic books for very small children, 4 and 5 years of age, which is the age of my youngest child. The idea being that they would have a comic that could show them other children in a child-safe way, like a children's book, printed on newsprint, so it's cheap enough for parents to not worry if it gets banged up a bit. I mean, it's a $1.50 book or a $1.60 book or whatever it is, so that it's not something that really pinches the pocket, but then also to provide a digital file that parents can print out so the kids can color the pages from the comic and then practice their letters in the narrative boxes in the speech bubbles, so they can practice writing as well. So it has some educational value, I think, as well as some definite entertainment value, and also bringing kids some excitement about reading.
Yeah, that's really thoughtful. I wish that there had been more stuff like that when I was a kid.
And
you could even maybe approach Scholastic or something with something like that.
Yeah, Scholastic did a really great job of that when I was a kid too, and I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm looking at actually another Kubrick grad who I've been speaking with about doing that project. We're going over cost calculations right now to see what it would take on basic costs to get the money together for crowdfunding to fund the rest of the art. Because when you do a comic quality and you're not the artist, then honestly you're looking at, in some instances, $300 a page for interior art if you were going to someone a legitimate fair wage. Very shocking to people, because you can farm around on Fiverr and find people who will slap something together very cheaply, but I think the quality shows through when you pay professionals.
Yeah.
Even when you pay people who are quote unquote not yet professionals, but are just really talented and just haven't gotten their break yet, so that they can enjoy it. Yeah. We talked a little bit about this on the Kickstarter live stream with Alexia the other day. The fact that one of the things that this funds is she's actually going to be taking time away from her daytime employment to focus on finishing the last pages of the book so that it's literally the highest quality we can put into it.
And that incentive is only there if you're prepared to actually put in the investment. And the other thing is that if it is an investment, because nothing's free, so if you pay cheap, shitty wages, you're going to get cheap, shitty art, or at least for the quality of, you get great artists that can work at very low wages, but it's still never going to be their best work because they can't afford to make it the priority.
Exactly. And plus, who's going to want to work for you if you're not going to pay them well? I'm back. Like I said, I'm very fortunate. The guys who've been working with me, I can pick up the phone. The calendar is absolutely full. They'll work me in. And I can't be happier than that. I mean, that's an amazing feeling to have. He called Anthony Oyeda about doing Tarot Adventures Book 3. Death Comes to Glenfollow, and we were halfway through the conversation. He's like, "Yeah, man, for you, no problem." So I was like, "That's one of the coolest things I've had happen." It's back from the people I've been working with. It's nice to know that they seem to appreciate working with me enough that they make time for me. They refer other artists too. That's very telling.
Yeah.
When they're willing to say, "Hey, something this guy's okay to work with," and I think it makes an impact. I think it makes a difference.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to disrupt too much, guys, but I'm going to head off. So I hope wish you all the best with your Kickstarter, and thanks to everybody in the audience, and hopefully they'll go and contribute or at least share it around. And it's good to be back, guys. It's been good talking to you, and I'll catch you guys next week. See you.
Take it easy, Crumple.
Take it easy.
So he's getting an early night. He usually is up late with us all, isn't he?
I just have one more question myself. How long did it take you to make this from start to finish book?
Started in June of 2017.
Wow.
And so we took our first stab at Kickstarter in, I believe it was October of 2017, with nothing more than the cover art, promotional poster image that we put together, which is of Yoshio striking with his sword in the amidst the cherry blossoms, and that's just such a great image. But it's a very ink wash style image, and beyond that, we didn't even yet have full pages developed. We had all the storyline done up, everything plotted. We wanted to go ahead and just see if we could fund it all and get her straight to work into issue 1 so that we could get it and start really rolling the series out. And we fell short. But it gave me a year to invest in the project, to refine certain elements of it, to really work on the look of the characters in a lot of ways. There's been some changes to Yahei in particular. But it makes for a better book now. Through hardship, strength, I guess.
Yeah, I keep scrolling through this Kickstarter, and
keep finding new things all over the time.
I am. I'm just looking at little details, and it is you rarely come across, like, in the sort of mainstream comics. There's not this level of. I know the mainstream comic would probably they would probably consider this high risk, or I don't know, but this. That's the great thing with going and supporting indie creators, is that they are prepared, and people such as yourself, Angado, you're prepared to take that risk, and you have got that creative passion, that belly in your fire, the wrong way around. That you got that fire in your belly to make this come to reality, to fruition.
Yeah, we're definitely determined. Definitely determined. And I think that the more people we have who keep coming to support it, 500 is just what needs to be pulled in to fund the last of it for art and printing and distribution for our backers.
Hmm.
Then we're on to. I'm sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was going to say, I suppose you channeled sort of your inner samurai, like with that determination from when you first started this project to kickstart, launching the Kickstarter. You've sort of been channeling your inner samurai.
I think that's very kind. Yeah, I hope that's true. One thing that we have done specifically is I kept updating the existing backers from the first campaign. So as we had new art that came available, we teased that out. As we made incremental changes, we teased some of that out. We were at one point going to try and launch in 2018. Between the calendar, the workload, and other commitments I both had, it got pushed into 2019, and we decided to take the bull by the horns and go right at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. So
that we could get the book out, have plenty of time for us to get it done the best we can, get it shipped, and then get ready to prep into issue 2. Also leads into the con season, so we can take books out. I'm going to take my copies and use whatever revenue from that is to apply towards development on issue 2. The idea being, first and foremost, to actually get the books done. I think try to take money out of their Kickstarter rather than actually use it for what it's intended, to develop the best product you can.
Yeah.
Certainly make money if you can, but make sure it's you're putting it into where it needs to be. And in this instance, anything beyond that really needs to go into issue 2.
Yeah.
Of course.
Interestingly enough, I calculated that if we could reach $19,000, it would completely fund development of issue 2 as well. Digital copies of it to all the backers for issue 1. We'd still need to do another one to guarantee that we could print issue 2, but it would allow us to get it out so that people could have a peek at what's to come.
Yeah.
But guys, did you have any other questions for Angado before we wrap up?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Switch.
I don't have any real questions. I was just gonna. But no, if you have any questions, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, did you have any advice for people who are trying to make their own indie comic?
Yeah. Not give up. Here's the thing about doing anything creative, right? It can't be done, or someone else would have done it, or they're going to say, "Oh, we're sure you can do it. Maybe you should do it later when you have time, or when you have more money, or after you've had a baby, or whatever the excuse is." The matter is that things don't start working until you do, and they don't get completed until you finish creating them. You're going to create your comic, or you're going to create your role-playing game, or if you're going to create your board game, or whatever, you're going to write your novel. Now, I mean, literally right now. If you're in the middle of dinner, take a moment and think about or the story you want to tell, or the game you want to make. If you're watching YouTube, or if you're sitting here driving in your car, give some thought to what you want to start writing, start planning, get to work on it just as soon as your feet are where you're staying, where you need to be, where you're sitting, where you need to be, to do the work you need to get started. The thing too is that you're working with ethical people. And I don't mean to sound obtuse about that. I've had a number of people who've come to me recently, and I'm the very new guy on the block, get paid by their previous publisher. This has happened to a couple of the artists I work with regularly, where other publishers they've done work for just have refused to pay them after the work was done. I consider that theft. And ask around for other people before you take work. Whenever someone comes to me, I say, hey, look, before we sign any contracts or anything, ask the other people who've worked with me what they think about what their experience was like. Into because there are people who will act badly and in bad faith. So be cautious with who you put your trust in.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to create and use crowdfunding for it, a magic pill. It requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of effort. You are going to have to accommodate things that you don't normally do. You're going to have to utilize your social media presence. You're going to have to consider whether or not you want to run ads. Have a lot of fun, though, too. You'll talk to new people like I am today. You'll get the chance to do interviews with folks for blogs or podcasts. You might do video clips on YouTube. You're going to meet a lot of really cool people who are watching what you're doing. It's like anything else, when the people's eyes are on you, do the absolute best you can.
Yeah.
Even if you're brand new to something, it doesn't matter. Here's the thing I honestly and truly believe. Try with all your heart to do the absolute best work you can. Respect you for it. And if you can improve with each project that you launch, each project that you create, each book you write, each game you design, learn from past mistakes. Bigger and brighter and better.
Yeah.
Or I guess I should say better, brighter and bigger, I guess is the actual priority for it. You can create wonderful projects with 100 people backing you.
Yeah.
Done it. Create really great projects with 70 people backing you, or with 10. It just depends on what the project is.
John Lemus in the chat is asking, have you tried Indiegogo as well? I know that's another...
I gave one stab at Indiegogo before. Unfortunately, I tried to do it in tandem, simultaneous launches with the first effort with 47 Furious Tales. So I didn't really give it the fair shake it deserves. I'm going to probably take to Indiegogo this summer because my Kickstarter calendar is full. Full, actually stretching into 2020. Tapped out. And that's another thing too. If you're very prolific at what you do, calendar, and you need to plan for it, because the hurry up and wait aspect of things is going to bite you in the bum if you're not careful. So plan out what you need to have done and then meet those goals, get things done, make things happen, and test what you produce. Readers, if you're a writer, get some play testers if you're a game designer, and take their feedback as what it is. Don't take it personally. Use it to enhance what you're doing. Do that and learn to enhance your material from it. You're going to be far ahead of anyone who thinks that they're the best and brightest already and isn't willing to take criticism.
There's some wise words. So yeah, we're coming up to about the hour and a half. Nerd Waffle or Switch, did you have any other questions just before we wrap up?
I was gonna ask if he could, if Angado, right? Sorry, making sure I got it right. Could you? What would be the best way to I'd like to do at the ending of the show. I'd like you to just kind of end off with a way to pitch the show to make everyone kind of, or not to pitch your comic and make everyone want to go check out the Kickstarter. You know what I mean? Because I think that would kind of just be a nice little way to end it, to kind of also get a nice little push for your comic, a nice little final words, maybe push for your comic at the end there too. You never know.
I can do that now if you want, or whenever you just say go. So basically, 47 Furious Tales is the retelling of historic events of Asano Naganori, who died by his own hand after an incident in Edo. Official. His retainers were prohibited from seeking revenge. Was in a difficult spot traditionally and culturally. But of the retainers loyal to Asano, 47 of them act to avenge his death. And 47 Furious Tales is the telling of that Eiko incident, starting from before Asano and taking place through the course of the many years, the 2 full years, in fact, that they plotted their revenge, all 12 issues that we're going to release. Very fixed story. We're not going to try and resurrect anyone. There isn't, anything about death not being permanent. It is grim and gritty and full of finesse about honor and loyalty, duty and betrayal. Story about people who upheld their obligations and their belief unto death. Check out the Kickstarter and support us if you can to help bring this comic and the telling of this classic story back to the world.
Definitely. So, for the people watching, I have put a link to this Kickstarter in the description, so please do check it out. It's a goal of 4,000. I know I'm reading it in pounds. £4,966. 22 days to go. Definitely support this project. It's well worth the money for what you get. Fantastic. So, to your final words, Switchpoint, any final words from you?
Honestly, give these I can't really honestly tell you, I would say, this sounds like an interesting project. Give it a go. If you're not, if this is not interesting, at least take a look at, some of the other indie projects that are out there. Support the small creators, I would say, at least. Even if it's, I would say, we would love it if you supported 47 Furious Tales, because, that's the one we're kind of showcasing today. But I don't want you to support it if that's not the one you want, but I do want you to at least try to find an indie creator out there and try to support an indie creator out there. You know what I mean? The small guy definitely needs our support, and it's always good to try to put that out there. I mean, that as consumers, I think it never hurts to at least see what the small guys are doing.
What about you, Ned Waffle?
It's honestly $4 US, $5 Canadian for the digital copy, as well as name on the Wall of Honor and digital posters. So I mean, $5, you're not out much. If I haven't read it, so I can't really give a proper review on it, but $5 from what I've seen of the art, from what I've heard of it, it's not a lot of money just to throw down and to help out an indie creator, especially one that pays his workers and whatnot, his artists. I'd say give it a try, and like Switchpoint said, if it's not for you, then at least you gave it a try for $5 and you're not out much. If not, and the best case scenario is you pay $5 and it could be the best damn comic you've ever read in your life. So definitely worth check out there. And I wish all the best luck to you. And I hope it gets funded.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I hope so too.
And sort of my final words are, support all these small indie creators. There's a hell of a lot of creative people out there, and by all means share and like this the show. Really helps to support us. I was really surprised we got 50 views on our last episode, which I think is we've had a sort of surge in viewers come along, and again I really hope that this brings more eyes to your to 47 Furious Tales, Angado. So yeah,
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for coming on,
Thanks
taking
for
the time.
on.
Yeah, we know that. Understand you've got a family and and other personal things to attend to. But really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and talk to us.
It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, and so with that, with the people watching at home, like I said, don't forget to share this around, and also reaching out to any other creators out there. If you're working on any project, would love to have you on as a guest to talk about your project. Don't forget to check out the Flat Pack Show playlist. There's all other evergreen topics that me, Switchpoint, Nerd Waffle, and Cripplepoint have discussed. Sort of all things creative. So with that, I've been Flatmeister. It's been Switchpoint, switching it up.
Yo.
It's been Nerd Waffle.
I think you just pretty much did his catchphrase, but no, I was just kidding.
I did. Sorry. Stolen glory. Stolen glory.
I'm empathetic towards it. I really don't mind.
Remember to hug the person next to you. We don't show enough compassion in the world. And remember to keep it toasty.
And it's been Angado. Oh, John Lemus is just asking how to reach you on social media. So it's been Angado. Shoot away, bud.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me. I had a blast.
So what was your social media? How people can reach?
You can find Sinopa Publishing on Facebook and on Twitter, as well as on Instagram, and then on Kickstarter under my pen name W.S. Quinton, Quinton.
I think I did put your Twitter handle and the link to the Kickstarter in the description, so people can reach you there as well.
Outstanding. Thank you.
All right, so it's been the Flat Pack Show. We'll catch you next Wednesday. It's always same time as always, 11 p.m. GMT, which is about 6 p.m. Eastern. We do try to be on time. I think we were fairly on time this week. So with that, we'll catch you in the next episode. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.